Before we get into that, though, I'm going to read some of your user reviews that you guys hit me up with. So, here we go. From Freddie Pineapple. Gino Lombardo has his own podcast now. He plays Jon Gabrus, an overweight, heavy-breathing narcissist who invites guests on to discuss only his own personal interests. Despite Gino's convincing portrayal, you can still get hints of the dim-witted, ignorant broadcasting student we all know and love. Like when he holds up his iPod to the microphone to play music clips. Oh, feels good already. Gabrus is going to make a great ex-husband someday. This is from Amazon09M or something. He quintessentially lardass anytime he or a guest brings up how far he is. He makes sure to mention how strong he is and that he allegedly used to look like a less of a whale. I can only imagine he's 2 steps from suicide. He's not quite teetering the edge yet, but we all know he'll be there someday. Love the podcast, you beautiful waste of space. Oh, God.
This is a great roast of you on these comment section.
From Joe Campbell, if you like cereal, you'll love High and Mighty. Don't think that works. Elmore D27, why don't you shut you fat mouth and let one of your guests speak?
That's fair. That's fair.
That's a very good note.
Yeah.
Shut
you fat mouth.
Shut
you fat mouth.
Start to finish, this podcast is an exercise in tedium. This is from Grant W. James. Whether listening to this animal of a host gorging himself on sloppy chalupas or gleefully committing aggressions, micro and macro, you will undoubtedly be filled with the unrelenting urge to step off the sidewalk and straight into oncoming traffic. His guests are cool, though. There you go, guys.
Yeah. So another fair review.
Very fair.
Macro and micro.
Macro and micro is the
Discharging foul. If you like hearing 2 acquaintance friends awkwardly beat bad jokes into the ground for an hour, this is the podcast you've been waiting for.
Fair.
Yeah, fair. These are all good.
These are all good. Shut you fat mouth.
All right, hold on. I'm sorry. Gabrus did 9/11 from Dan Fry.
Fair.
Yeah.
Engineer Cody, on High and Mighty, Gabrus lying to himself isn't only allowed, it's encouraged. Oh, thanks.
I don't know about that one.
Gabrus' enormous personality can only be overshadowed by his enormous fat bronze body. This podcast is great for reference to bodily functions and then listening to said bodily functions. Also, Taco Bell, weed, beer, microaggressions, tangents, and lots of white people. Lex 772,000. By the way, lots of white people is not a dig. That's hand curated, buddy. Nilo Rethenthile says, this self-congratulating hairy baby can't wait to talk over his friends, wasting no time getting the part where he laughs at his own jokes. This is from Booth in Cart. When Gabrus was born, they considered changing Long Island to Fat Island. Gabrus is a great host because he's like 3 hosts in one, size-wise. The headgum office must smell like the worst type of wet fart after Gabrus leaves the studio.
Jesus.
God help the podcast that follows him. Best podcast ever. All right, this is from Booyah53. I never thought I could listen to a fat drunk go on and on about fantasy novels, Taco Bell, and Renaissance fairs. And honestly, I barely can. I've never heard someone laugh at their own jokes more than Gabrus. Pretty incredible he's managed to squeeze in there barely audible episodes with disgusting gross-out Taco Bell episode and the 2 Power Hour episodes. If you're interested in basically listening to a guy smell his own farts for an hour a week, I recommend you check this out. All right, here's the last one for now.
A lot of farts.
From Huff is a Snitch. Who would ever want to listen to this shit? You have a fat asshole who has no idea what he's talking about. The best thing you'd ever do is get drunk and fall asleep. That way you wouldn't need to listen to him prattle on. I mean, honestly, I'd rather shoot a nail gun at my crotch a few dozen times and hear the douche talk. 5 out of 5. Would listen again. Oh, this is a good one. Hold on, I'll do a couple more. This is from Eggplant Parmesan. Great name, by the way. That means he's a black Italian. Number 1 fuck child gets drunk with friends, then calls his mom. No wonder Guy Code was on MTV too. So here's a long one from someone named King Dead. Tony Soprano once said, remember when is the lowest form of conversation. While Jon Gabrus looks, eats, and breathes noisily like Tony, he has no problem wallowing in self-indulgent reminiscence. Tune in every week to hear a man in his early 30s wax poetic about the good old days of being 17, offer heartfelt opinions on topics he can barely understand, and forget what his own show is about for minutes at a time. Though honestly, what else should you expect from a stoned man-child talking about video games and superheroes? Ouch.
Funny. People are fucking smart, man. Yeah. It's funny and smart.
People are
very accurate.
What I'm learning is
what
I'm learning is that people are dangerously insightful. Like I'm reading this and I'm like, I didn't even know that about myself, but it's true.
Right. With the blood type of O positive. What the fuck?
There's just like a night vision shot from 1,000 meters away of me getting in my car. I'm like, who the fuck is this? All right, this is from Snap the Jap. Pretty terrible. Hopefully you're Japanese.
Yeah, hopefully you fought in World War II.
Yeah, or you are a Jewish American princess or something. What can be said about Jon Gabrus that hasn't already been said about a dumpster fire? The High and Mighty podcast is about the things near and dear to the host. Unfortunately, the host is basically Coco the gorilla if she learned to speak from Bruno Kirby, R.I.P., after he was kicked in the head by a horse. Jon Gabrus is supposedly a comedian from Long Island. The latter is made abundantly clear as he tries to squeeze that into every episode. Not unlike how he has to squeeze himself into maternity pants, just with less butter. Jon Gabrus asks his listeners to roast him. I wonder if they make a spit sturdy enough to do so. Not sure what would be worse, John's usual smell or the smell of him being roasted. Okay, yeah, this goes into like a long rant about how fat I am.
Any more about Bruno Kirby in there?
That was pretty specific, right?
Have you referenced Bruno Kirby before?
No, but I feel like, again, they're onto something.
Another really smart person.
I do truly sound like Coco the gorilla who learned to speak from Bruno Kirby, who's been kicked in the head by a horse. Right. It took 2 animals to teach me English.
Bruno Kirby from... like Good Morning Vietnam, and he's in City Slickers.
Yeah. And he's in
Spinal Tap.
He's in like
cab
every
driver. He's the limo driver.
He's in every Billy Crystal movie, right? Because he's also in the When Harry Met Sally, right? He's the guy friend.
He's in fucking Godfather 2.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Fuck, dude, he's great.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I'd call that a roast.
That's a good teacher.
Again, another compliment. This is from Sheep Lover. If you ever wonders what Slimer from Ghostbusters was like as a human, then listen to... Jesus Christ. Wow. That one stopped me in my tracks. If you ever wonder what Slimer from Ghostbusters was like as a human, then listen to Jon Gabrus. Okay. Zach W., 1978. Jon Gabrus is a fat guy from Long Island. His show is about why he's a fat guy, whether it is from drinking too much, eating too much, or just sitting around watching a lot of TV while eating and drinking too much. Also, he's from Long Island. Okay. People think that's like a dig. It's not to me. All right, that's enough. I think I need to stop.
Not a way to
started talking to yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not to me.
Yeah, it's one of those things I'm kind of proud of. You know, fucking badge of honor.
I just literally have to be like, I should stop this. This is unhealthy for me today. I'm a little fragile about my career in life. I don't need to read that right now.
Oh fuck! Oh, that was funny.
Here's our first comment right now. This is from Tri-City Fuckboy, and the subject is just sad. I don't know who let this man-child have his own podcast, but now Gemberling gets to disappoint more than just his wife once a week. Thank God his alcoholic father didn't live to witness his failure. 5 stars.
That's a good one. We're recording this on Father's Day.
We are recording this on Father's Day. Ooh.
People are going for blood.
People don't give a fuck about me.
That dude went for it. That dude was like, what if I'd write a real mean one?
Yeah. He'll definitely read it. You know what? I want him to like me, but also hate me.
I wonder if he was laboring over the send button and he's just like, fuck it. I'm doing it. I'm fucking doing it. It's funny. I'm doing it.
Right, because, like, it's weird. Like, I think people don't understand fully, like, what a roast is. Like, yeah, it can cut deep, but part of it is to get other people to laugh.
Yeah.
And just being like, his alcoholic father is not alive to see this.
Yeah,
It's
that's...
When people start looking at the ground, you blew it.
Yeah, you fucked up the roast if you're like, all right.
Yeah. Even Shaq's not laughing.
This is from Set Your Goals, and the subject is, oh, great. The only good thing about John Bon Grossi's podcast was the audio quality. But don't... Funny that you should say that. But don't worry, he's finally regressed to recording his beach friends ranting about aliens in his home on an early model MacBook. It now sounds like you're listening to a VHS of a couple of kids getting high for the first time in 1995. This is a very specific review of last week's episode. Hopefully his alleged wife gets as annoyed as the rest of us and makes him go back to a professional studio. 5 stars, love it. I'd listen to it even if it sounded like glass getting shoved in my ears and killed me 7 days later like The Ring. Okay. This is from neither... The subject of this next review is neither entertaining nor substantive. In which Jon Gabrus, known mostly for his Gino the Intern bit part on other podcasts... Oh, my God.
That's good.
Meditates on his own pathetic career and the wasted life of a hack with no ambition. I listen every week.
That one's good. That's good.
This is from Audio Laxative. Oh, no, this is the review is from $2 Tony. It says Audio Laxative. Something about Jon Gabrus's wet, throaty chuckle and constant recycling of the same 3 topics. Parentheses, did you hear his dad die? Really gets my bowels moving. I guess you could say I am a, quote, regular listener. Ooh.
Wow.
Oh, man.
Little Bruce Valanche.
Well written. Yeah.
I don't know if I read this review before, but it just sounds, it's great. I can't remember. It's from... This is from Mbo602. Sweet release. I've been suffering with depression for years. I have nothing left to live for. Thank you for giving the push I needed. 5 out of 5 stars. Would cream pie my grandmother. Don't fully understand why that last part's there.
He signs off all his reviews.
Yeah, that's
with
just
that.
his signature on his iPhone.
Salutation.
Oh, here's a quick, easy one. A stinky butt of a podcast by Splangy. The only thing more embarrassing than listening to this podcast is being the host of it. Simple and fun. All right, and here's we'll read this one last, and then we'll get into Rambo. This is from Lieutenant Chode. He's a high-ranking member of the Chode Army. 5 out of 5. People agree that Jon Gabrus is trash. A+ sized buffoon rambles about his life and calls it entertaining. 2 thumbs up. The butthole is what Jon Gabrus does to himself as he somersaults around the podcast studio attempting to blow himself. So first off, this is from Alec Scholzen, who the title is Ruined Improv for Me. John, with an H, Gabrus, once subbed my Improv 101 class for Fran, open parentheses, an actually good comedian, close parentheses, Gillespie. He taught our class that being the loudest means you're the funniest, and just to talk over your scene partner if you don't like what they're saying. Little to say, he ruined improv for me. A couple years later, I began interning on Saturday nights at UCB Franklin and was thrilled to get to watch AssCat on a regular basis. That was until I realized John, with an H, was a regular cast member. I cringed as he made rape jokes and unearned racial comments. Poor Mary Holland and everyone else he had to perform with. Love the podcast, 5 out of 5. You're actually a very nice man, even though you never acknowledged me as a person at UCB.
All right, he won me over at the end.
Yeah.
What is little to say?
I don't know what that means.
yeah.
Needless to say?
I think he fucked up.
Yeah. I think, I would.
Yeah,
I wish
he
I could turn this
obviously
into
fucked
a
up.
reverse roast because there's like 3 typos and phrases I've never heard. And I know Alec, and I don't think English is his second language, but it's really coming across that way. You hear me, you fucking long-haired loser? I can't wait to do AssCat this Saturday and say, I do know who you are, you fucking shitbird. This is a little bit of a longer one, but I think I'll get into it and try to speed through it since I don't have my Invisalign in. I can read faster. All right, here's a longer review from Infamous Alex, and the title is "The Show is on Life Support." There's no possible way this show could go on for much longer. How could it? If the premise is based on the stuff Gabrus knows about and enjoys, as he says, it would have ended long ago. But I think even he is beginning to realize the podcast is a reflection of his life. It's a metaphorical, unfinished book report presentation in which he manages to scrape by with a D just because he spoke with some level of confidence in his voice, despite the fact he's only ever heard of books. You can't eat books, so why bother? Yes, this show is a perfect example of Trump-style speech-making. Knowing what you're talking about means nothing as long as you speak like you know everything. It also helps if you sound like a combination of Fran Drescher and Ralphie May. When people hear that type of buffoonish accent, they think, let's humor the man, baby, and act like what he's saying makes sense. If someone was doing a presentation on what's wrong with America, they could just put this talking gunt on stage and let him prattle on about chalupas and porn for 65 minutes. Somehow, one of the most gluttonous, aberrant men in podcasting also manages to be the most shameless, honest, and personable men in internet fake radio, which is exactly why this is one of my favorites. Yes, he's an obese, stoned, drunk, white, fat moron, but so am I. It's like looking in the comedy mirror. The world needs more equal opportunity, insensitive, racial, religious, etc. humor, and the world could definitely use more honesty along with more hilarious... All right, blah, blah, blah. It gets nice, but it ends with, fuck you, Jeb Garbo. Thank you, infamous Alex. I will say, though, it's supposed to be a roast, and you called me white in there, and that's one of the highest compliments you could pay someone.
Yikes.
You're supposed to be roasting me, but I do appreciate being referred to as white.
Yikes.
Yeah, that one freaked me out.
That freaked me out.
I was like, I thought you were supposed to hate me. How do you hate white people? We're the fucking best. Aren't we? Wait, why are you guys unplugging the
Like
mics?
looking into a comedy mirror.
Yeah, that was...
Yeah. You ended up roasting yourself there a little bit. I'm glad I read a review from a guy named Alec and a guy named Alex today.
Yeah, you did it.
I did it.